Hi, my name is Frankie. Thank you for listening to my mom. I never listen.
Here we go, Sweet 16, baby. I can't wait. I mean, I'm in San Antonio. We're joined with the great Charlie Creme, who'll help put the whole thing together. Charlie, I think the NCAA pays a little bit more attention to what you're doing than you really think. And then Aaron Barzilai, who runs Her Hoop Stats. Aaron is a great friend of the podcast, but he's more importantly an important component to growing our game with his site and with all the amenities that he brings to women's basketball. We're lucky to have you both on the podcast. So thank you guys both for being here.
Absolutely. Love it.
Thanks for having us. Always
We're
exciting
gonna
to talk to you.
we're gonna dive right in, guys. I just want you to give your assessment and break it down in Charlie World kind of terms and Aaron World kind of terms. Okay, so that we're gonna start with the upper left portion of the bracket. We're gonna go Stanford, Missouri State. Charlie, what's your thoughts?
Well, I had picked Stanford to win it all at the start of the tournament, and I haven't seen anything that's driving me off that. I kind of like maybe a couple other teams a little bit better than Stanford at this point, but I don't see any real obstacles, true obstacles to them to the Final Four. However, Missouri State plays the kind of game, and Missouri State's really good at being able to get their style implemented in a game. They're very good defensively. They're very good at managing the pace. I don't see an upset here, but I could see Missouri State causing some trying moments for Stanford in the game that maybe as we reach the end of the third quarter or something like that, it's still within reach for Missouri State. So this won't be an easy one for Stanford, I don't think by any means.
Aaron?
Yeah, I agree. I think that our computer models actually really like Missouri State. I think higher than most people would guess. So we've got our kind of prediction for the game. We actually only give Stanford a 78% chance to win. We think the margin will be about 9 points, which is relatively low compared to some of the other teams, some of the other top seeds. And so, I'm expecting it to be close, right? We saw that the Stanford game was close the other day in the round of 32. And so it'll be curious to see if, Stanford will be able to come out even stronger in this Sweet 16 game, or whether they're going to, be challenged once again. Obviously Stanford's, just a great team, and I'm a little biased. I went there for grad school, so I try to keep it straight for a podcast like this, and they have some real talent. The person I'm always love to see play is Cameron Brink. I'm super excited to watch her play again.
You know what? I wish people could see the smile on my face. I hope they can hear it in my voice that we're very close to talking about gambling lines here. And I don't know what kind of algorithm you're using, Aaron, but I'm 100% behind whatever you're doing because I know how hard you work at it. So 78% chance for Stanford. I love it. I love the conversation. That's very interesting. All right, let's go over to Oregon and Louisville. What you got, Charlie?
Well, two teams that have actually surprised me in the tournament. Surprised me from the Louisville standpoint that they really played that well. Both games they got down early. I mean, they kind of took care of Marist, relatively quickly after some early struggles. But boy, the way they played in the first quarter against Northwestern, if you think maybe if they're playing a more explosive offensive team than the Wildcats, that they might not be able to get out of that hole. And Oregon hasn't been great offensively, but they're a better offensive team than Northwestern. And Oregon's been a great defensive team so far in the tournament. I'm still kind of shocked, to be honest with you, how well they contained Georgia. And I did not see Oregon getting to this point. I just did not like the way they were playing at the end of the year, really on either end. They hadn't beaten a good team in a really long time. And Georgia's among the best teams in the country, and they were in control for most of that game. It got close late, and then they opened it up again at the end. But Oregon was in front of that game for a vast majority of it. If they could play that kind of defense again, like I said, I don't think that's a hole. If Louisville digs itself, I don't think they can get out of. I picked Oregon to win the game, and I think a lot of it's just based on the fact that Dana Evans is really struggling for Louisville right now. She's getting a lot of help, and clearly the future is good even when she's gone because their freshmen have stepped up. Haley Van Lift was good yesterday. Olivia Cochran was good yesterday, but they just aren't playing well enough, I think, to keep this train moving, unless Evans can find her game again.
Yeah, I think that's, really the question. Interestingly, our model's a little high on Oregon. Frankly, it made me a little nervous before the season start how much we like them. We have them ranked 7th overall in our Her Hoop Stats rating. And, Louisville were perhaps a little lower than some others. So kind of, see this game as a toss up, right? The model gives it a 54% chance for Louisville, but, essentially 50-50, maybe a 1-point spread. The one thing that does concern me, right? Obviously, Oregon's done very well despite Papa's absence. And so, will that catch up to them? And then kind of the one little number that I think is particularly notable is, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly here, that, Oregon is shooting 45.8% from three in these first 2 games, 11 for 24. And so the question to me really is like, how sustainable is that, right? And, if they aren't able to shoot that effectively, they only shot 36% for the season, then, it's going to be an uphill struggle.
I love it. This is good. Let's keep rolling. I mean, South Carolina and Georgia Tech, the bottom left part of your bracket. This is a game that would be Sunday at 1 o'clock on ABC. And what do you see, Charlie, about this one? I think this could be a rock fight.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of points in this one. I think take the under. I'm curious to see what Aaron has to say about that in a second. Georgia Tech, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how I feel about them because I couldn't. I was having a hard time watching their game against Stephen F. Austin, and it went to overtime. I'm like, just end it already, please end it. This is not Debbie Antonelli basketball. We need some offense.
Right.
But the fact that they turned it around and played so much better offensively in just 2 days. I mean, it was on 180. I think we're going to see more of this Stephen F. Austin game type offense from Georgia Tech because South Carolina is really, really good defensively. And I'm a little concerned long-term about South Carolina because of the 3-point shooting just isn't there. And I think if they're going to beat the other big dogs in this tournament, they're going to have to start making some deep jump shots. But I think like you said, I think they could get away in a rock fight against Georgia Tech without making them again. And I think South Carolina should be able to control this game pretty well. I don't want to say easily because I don't think when you play Georgia Tech, anything's easy. But I think comfortably, South Carolina is not going to feel all that threatened by the time we get to the second half.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think the one thing, right, is that it is probably going to be a low-scoring game. It actually, for our totals model, we have the game at 123 points altogether between the two teams, which is the lowest of any of the Sweet 16 games, slightly less than Arizona A&M. And so, when a game's going to be low-scoring, that leaves more variability if shots are falling or not. But that said, I think South Carolina, very strong favorite to win this game. We actually give them like a 92% chance to win. They actually, you were talking about their shooting. I think I just saw they were shooting 4 of 29 from 3 so far. So, I mean, they're never going to be it's not their forte, but, nevertheless, they, should be able to shoot a little bit better than that. And, I agree with you exactly, Charlie, right? Like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about them long term, but I don't see this as the biggest hurdle.
So we're going to stay in that lower left-hand side of your bracket. It's Maryland and Texas. Now, Maryland's averaging 99 points in 2 games in this tournament, and we know they can fill it up. They've led the nation in scoring all season long. And Texas played really well the other night to beat UCLA, Charlie. What do you see here?
They did. I was impressed with Texas. I wasn't I would have picked UCLA, 9.5 times out of 10 in that game. I thought the Bruins were a little more primed. I mean, they've gone through, like a lot of teams, they've gone through a lot, but their roster's been thin, and maybe just getting to the end of the year, they just sort of ran out of gas. But Texas played really well. They played really good defense, and I think that's the one thing they can take into this game against Maryland is maybe having a little more confidence in their ability to defend. Now, Maryland very quickly ruined that confidence because they're so good offensively. And I anticipate that Maryland's still going to be able to put up a big number in this game. I don't think Texas is quite the team defensively to slow Maryland down. So I'm still expecting a lot of points from the Terps. and probably a fairly comfortable margin in this one. But I think if you're Texas and it does play out that way, given the ups and downs of their season and the inconsistent they played with, getting to the Sweet 16 is a win. That's a good year. And of course, I think Vic Schaefer now taking Texas forward, I think the future's pretty bright there.
Yeah, he fell to his knees post game. He was so elated that he was able to get his team there, Aaron.
Yeah, no, it was a remarkable win. We looked it up. It's actually only the second time they've been able to win a game with Collier scoring 5 points or less. I didn't. They were one in like 5 or 6, as you might expect in the rest of her Texas career. So definitely a big win. Definitely surprising. And again, I'll echo Charlie's comments. Not a lot of dissension here. I'm sorry we're not doing a classic debate podcast, but yeah, no, super impressed with Maryland. Our kind of computer models have loved them all year, and I gotta say, right, with the strength of the Big Ten in this tournament, it's just more evidence that Maryland, playing so well in the Big Ten, needs to be taken very seriously. We actually have them second in the overall her hoop stats rating, and for this particular game, again, I just think ultimately Texas is outmatched, right? We give Maryland like an 87% chance to win. And, one thing to keep an eye on, right, is Benson hasn't really been quite as spectacular in those first 2 games as she was in the, during the regular season. She's been automatic, right? And so, but despite that, Maryland's, the only team that has, Maryland's plus 89 for these first 2 games, which is second best of all the teams. Baylor's the only one that's higher, and they're at 91. So I think people should be keeping an eye out for Maryland in the long term.
Do you have any idea if Maryland will score 100 points, 90 points in this game, Aaron? Like, what is your formula spit out?
I haven't. No, we're predicting our model for the score is 82 to 67, and as watching these games, right, all kinds of surprises. So that's definitely not plus or minus 1 by any stretch, but certainly it looks to be, actually really the second highest scoring game, a game we're going to get to fairly soon. I think UConn Iowa is going to be the highest, but we're expecting about 149 points altogether.
Yeah. You're rolling right into the top right, and you're exactly right. It might be the most anticipated game of the entire tournament so far. It was anticipated on the selection show night that it was unveiled that there was a chance that UConn and Iowa would meet. So, I mean, can Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark cancel each other out? And if so, what happens, Charlie?
Well, I can't wait to see either one. I think it's great that this game has gotten the attention it's gotten, and it's showcased. It's going to be on ABC, and hopefully it draws a nice audience, because these are 2 players. Given what the 3 of us do for a living, these are 2 players we're going to be with and following and paying and giving a lot of attention to for 3 more years after this. So this might not be the only time we get to talk about them meeting up head to head, which I would welcome. I think Clark will get the better of the individual matchup, maybe just because of her she's going to have a higher volume of shots in all likelihood. But I think there's a lot more places. Iowa's not a one-person team by any stretch. Cesano is great in the post. She's super efficient. But going down the roster, I mean, UConn's roster is better. I don't think that would surprise anybody to hear me say that. There are more places UConn can go. And Paige Beckers is going to get her. She's going to get her points, and she's going to set people up, and she's going to have a productive and probably efficient game. And maybe that's what it comes down to. Maybe not so much how much Clark can get, but how efficient she can be doing it. And if there's a third person on the floor, Gabby Marshall, for instance, had a huge game against Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament, because Rutgers basically decided, we're going to get the ball out of Clark's hands earlier in the possession, and we'll just let the chips fall from there. And Marshall just kept knocking him down. If something like that would happen, I don't think UConn will play that as aggressively defensively in the backcourt. But if something like that or someone like that would emerge, and then I think we're talking about Iowa having a real shot at winning the game. I'm still picking UConn. I think they're the better team, and I think there's more options there offensively. And UConn's a very good defensive team, They're always coached well in that area. So that, and Iowa hasn't been a great defensive team. I think maybe that's going to be the difference, is kind of who can slow the other one down more. And I would bet on UConn in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone, I was super excited for this game. Really glad that it's going to have that real national promotion, and I think it's great that ABC, ESPN is running it on ABC. In the first game on Saturday. So, because I believe that means there's not going to be a men's Sweet 16 game against it, so that should be a chance to get more eyeballs. I'm excited to see the show. I think Charlie, you're absolutely right about needing that third person. One stat I dug up is that. The law firm of Clark and Cesano, or is it Cesano and Clark? I don't know. I forget how they say it. But, they've actually combined to score 55% of Iowa's points in the tournament. They've scored 95 of their 173 points. The only other team that's kind of relied on their top two more is Georgia Tech. So, that is a great question. Will they be able to get, that sort of third scorer? I do think, I love Clark. She's just been spectacular to watch. I think, people are sleeping a little bit on Susanna, though. She's actually, let's see, where is this stat? Oh, yeah. So she's averaging, each time she tries to shoot, she's averaging 1.36 points, 1.36 points per scoring attempt. So that's every time she either takes a shot and gets fouled and sent to the line. And that is actually sixth in the country in scoring efficiency for players that have taken 100 field goal attempts. So I think she's been pretty under radar. She's not anywhere near as flashy as the names at the top of the marquee for this game, but I hope she'll get a chance to shine as well. But
What's
ultimately,
the model? What's the predictability of it?
yeah, ultimately, I think UConn is just too much, right? I think that, we give them an 85% chance to win this game. We think they're the number one team in the country by our Her Hoop Stats rating. Beckers actually leads the country in win shares, who's just remarkable as a freshman. And one stat that I hadn't really realized until I was doing some digging. So UConn leads the country in field goal percentage difference, right? They're best in the country in their own shooting percentage at 51.7%. For the season, and they allow only 32.9%. So that, basically 19% difference is the best of any D1 team in the country. And I think that, they're going to have some battles as we get further on, but I think ultimately they're just too talented. And I just really hope that it's a compelling game and compelling television so that people can see what women's basketball is all about if they don't usually watch.
Yeah. So Baylor and Michigan, that's another game that will be in the ABC window. What do you guys got for that, Charlie?
Boy, Baylor's been good. And, I talked about it before the tournament started, or leading up to it, before the final bracket came out from the committee. And I said that there are, more than 4 number one seeds essentially. And Baylor was in that group. And I've done a reseeding of the tournament as we've kind of moved along. And I had to almost instantly put Baylor on the one line themselves. I never thought they were going to be a one based on kind of how the season rolled out. But it's really hard to look at Baylor and not think that they're at least one of the 4 best teams we've got going right now. And I think you can make a pretty strong argument that they're 1 or 2. I mean, Aaron mentioned, kind of where Maryland is now, and and you still have UConn at 1, but Baylor's certainly got to be in that mix. Michigan, again, great job by Michigan getting to the Sweet 16, first time ever. And I think that makes for a successful season, given the long break that Michigan had, and Naz Hillman put him on the radar with a 50-point game. We seem to bring that up every time we mention her name. But Baylor is just too much. They're and they were a team at one point in the season I was a little concerned about the outside shooting. Well, they're making jump shots now too. That's scary, because that really pretty much eliminates the one semi weakness you could have identified. So I don't know if they really have one right now, and their defense is just playing out of sight.
I think they won the national championship, averaging 3 threes a game. So
Yeah,
they've been able to do it without the 3 ball, Aaron.
It's remarkable. To me, it's proof. Sometimes people like to ask me, like, "Oh, like, you like the stats? Like, what's the number one stat for winning?" And Baylor is a great example that, like, there are so many different ways to win. You just got to sort of play to your strengths and play to style that works for you. Yeah, no, Baylor is, I believe, they're as I said earlier, right, they've won their games. They're plus 91 so far in this tournament, which is best in the tournament. So they're looking strong. Not surprisingly, as Charlie alluded to, or was it seemed to be guessing, like we have them third in our computer ratings. And so, again, we think this is, going to be maybe like a 12-point game, giving Baylor an 84% chance to win. I mean, to me, the question is, how well, Brown's been playing, spectacularly, right, for Michigan in these first two games.
Mhm.
And, I think Hillman's been good, but not, 50 points good, right, early in the season. And so, like if they can both get going and make it close, then, maybe they have a chance. But, another stat that I was digging up on Baylor is that, first of all, this is crazy. So they've blocked 21 shots in their two games, and second place of the remaining 16 teams is Stanford at 14. So they've got like 50% more than them. And I believe they have grabbed the rebound on 50% of their own misses so far in the tournament as well. So obviously, I think the further they advance, those numbers are going to get tougher. But they're off to a great start. They look like they're clicking, and so I just think ultimately it's hard to see Baylor falling to Michigan.
I think 50% of your misses, you offensive rebound, is a very high number.
It
That's
is.
incredible. So let's move to the bottom part of the right side of the bracket, which is NC State and Indiana.
I think this has a chance to be one of the most compelling games of the Sweet 16. And I think Aaron's got some numbers on it that would bear that out. I get a lot of flack from NC State fans. I think I have all year because I did this reseeding thing, and it wasn't so much that I moved NC State down. I think that's what a lot of people thought, it was a shot at NC State. No, it was more that Baylor and Maryland had just elevated themselves so much. So it wasn't a knock on NC State, but I am a little concerned about their depth now with Jones out, and if she remains out, I think that's a problem. I still think though NC State is tough enough and smart enough, and they just figure it out, I think, better than a lot of teams, that this will be a close one that they'll win, another close one that they will win. Kind of like they did in the ACC tournament. That's my prediction anyway, that the Wolfpack will get through this game. But Indiana is a veteran team too, and a good defensive team, and a smart team. So it's kind of teams that are not too dissimilar. But the Indiana doesn't have Kunane. And I think that might be the difference. And she hasn't had her best yet in the NCAA tournament. I just have this gut feeling that it's going to be a lot better for her in this one.
Yeah, I think this game, to me, it's going to be a toss-up. I think, like we're perhaps a little lower on NC State than their seed, and so our model sort of predicts it as only like a 55% chance to win. I think that in particular, Indiana just feels like they've been flying under the radar a little bit all season, and so I'm actually really excited to see them and see have more teams give them more people, get a chance to put their eyes on them. I think they're very talented. They protect the ball really well, right? And so they're sixth in the country in turnovers per game, eighth in turnover rates. They don't really make a lot of mistakes, and they're just kind of really maximizing their opportunities. They're great on the defensive boards as well. So I don't really have a deep expectation on what's going to happen, but I'm just really excited to see this one because I think it could be some really compelling television.
I think compelling is the word. I think they match up so well with their veteran experience. So let's go to the last one: Arizona and Texas A&M. Texas A&M, Charlie, seems to have 9 lives. I mean, they keep figuring out. I thought NC State had 9 lives, but I think Texas A&M's got them beat.
Absolutely, I think it would have been. You could have reasonably said that Texas A&M could have lost either of the games that they played almost as easily as they won them. They got a couple of breaks against Troy late with some officiating calls. I thought, not even so much the backcourt call bothered me. It was more the offensive foul they called on Troy. I thought that was completely the wrong decision, and that was a huge play in the game because that shot went in. That would have been a chance at a 3-point play for Troy. Instead, it was going the other way, and I think that could have swung the game just that one play. So A&M could be out of this tournament already, but they're not, and there's something to be said for that. I do wonder if their luck's going to run out. I think if they were playing a different team, I think they match up pretty well with Arizona. I think they're playing a different team. Maybe the outcome would be different. I am picking Arizona because I kind of think maybe Texas A&M sort of run out of that. The last little leaf on the 4-leaf clover might be gone. But Arizona is not a team that's going to run away and hide from another good team. Their offense just is not explosive enough. But I think the reason I'm leaning Arizona is because the one strength that A&M has had, like their inside game that normally is effective, hasn't really been. And Jordan Nixon has been great, obviously, in these two games, especially against Iowa State. Well, the best defensive guard in the country, in Ari McDonald, happens to be playing on the other team. So if Texas A&M can't get their bigs to play a little bit better and get more production there or consistency, Nixon's not scoring 35 against Ari McDonald. And if she's not, then Arizona has I think a really good chance to win. So I'm leaning Wildcats for that one particular reason.
Yeah, Texas A&M, it is remarkable. I've been a little bit skeptical of them relative to the perceptions, or I guess relative to all the wins, right? Because of the way they just keep pulling them out. I mean, right, they're only +6 for the tournament, and yet somehow they're sitting pretty. Our model gives them actually a 63% chance to win. I think part of that is because we're also not super high on Arizona. As I said earlier, this is going to be a low-scoring game, which I think also just makes the result pretty variable. Hopefully it won't look like a slog in the mud, but the teams will be playing crisply. But it's just it's a toss up. I think we've got it. Texas A&M +4, and Nixon though has been spectacular. She's got the second most points in the tournament so far, shooting 58% from the field. She's got how many assists did she have? I was looking at this earlier. So she's got 9 assists. So, doing fairly well there considering how much of the scoring she's accounting for the team. She scored 25% of A&M's points. So, can they keep relying on her? Will Jones, pick it up a little bit too? We'll have to see. But, I think things have broken really well from them from a seeding standpoint, because as I sort of from our conversation earlier, I think we're higher on some of the other teams in the other regions.
Okay, so I've been taking notes while you guys have been breaking the bracket down, and some of the notes that you've given me, I'm probably going to use on the air because I do have some of these games coming up in the Sweet 16. But here's what I want to do with you guys, just sort of like a speed round, if you will, based on some of the comments that you made. I've been jotting down a few questions. So the first thing I want to know is, and Charlie, you can give your answer, and then Aaron, you can give yours. Lorella Kubai, the center for Georgia Tech, is her WNBA stock going up or going down?
I think well, that's a good question because she wasn't great against Stephen at Boston, but I think it's going up because I think people are getting a chance to look at it. I think she fits a mold of a player that can be effective. She's never going to be a star by any means, but she's going to be able to. She should be able to rebound and she should be able to defend in the WNBA. And I think people from the WNBA are probably seeing that maybe a little bit more now. And she was, obviously she was real good against West Virginia. So I think it's gone up. I think she's limited as a pro, but I think she can fill that role of a big coming off the bench to play, 15 minutes a game and maybe try to get a hand in the face of somebody, grab a couple of rebounds, throw a couple good outlet passes, and have a role on a good team.
I think my answer is a little boring. I'm going to say that I hope that it's neutral. She'll only play 2 games in the tournament. I love SFA, but and thought they had a great chance to win there. But nevertheless, I just think that the WNBA front offices have probably been paying attention all year, and they're probably paying more attention to some of her particular conference games and games against tougher opponents. So I think it remains to be seen, I think is what I would say. I think if she can, help Georgia Tech go further and show out this weekend, then certainly that will help. But I'm hoping that people won't be overly biased by the most recent game or two.
Can Maryland score 90 against Texas?
Yeah, I think they can. I'm not sure they will. They're certainly capable, and their confidence has to be sky high, and that helps a ton. But now they have Angel Reese back there. They just have so many places to go. So even if someone's not shooting it well, it's like, we're not giving you the ball anymore because we got 3 more people over here. And Aaron brought it up earlier. Benson hasn't really done in the tournament so far what she did during the regular season, shooting threes, and they've still scored 100 essentially in 2 games. What if she starts knocking down threes? Then they have. If she starts knocking, if this is the game she starts doing it, I would predict that they would get to 90.
Yeah, they got to 90, I think 16 times if I'm counting correctly from their team page. So I think it's definitely possible.
Will Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark combine for 60 points?
I'm going to say no, not quite that many. I think they'll both be in the 20s. Because I think Clark will try to get her teammates involved a little bit more. So they might get to 50, but I'm not gonna put them both at 30 points. Boy, but that would be great, wouldn't it? Let's just say I'm rooting for that they get to 60. That though both of them are in the 30s or high 20s for one of them. But I'm going to say under on that one, just because I think both of them, given the attention on this game, might come in with the mindset of trying to get other people involved early, and maybe not get off as many shots as we've seen both of them have in maybe recent games or certainly for Clark throughout the season.
Yeah, sadly, I'm going to take the under there too. I think that maybe you set that line a little too high, Debbie, because as much as I would love to see it, that 60 is a very big number.
Well, I hope they both shoot till their arm falls off. But I really don't think Caitlin Clark's arm's ever going to fall off.
No.
So I'm happy with that too. That's a new way of looking at shooting till your arm falls off. Jordan Nixon and Ari McDonald. Who wins that matchup, and how will we measure it?
Ooh, the how we measure it part, I think, is a really good question. I think there's a good chance Nixon still scores more than McDonald, but I think what McDonald will do to Nixon defensively will hurt Texas A&M's chances to win. I kind of mentioned that earlier. So maybe the measurement is if McDonald is still scoring in the teens and Nixon is coming back and it takes 17 shots for her to get 20 points. Mm-hmm. Then McDonald's done her job, and that's a measurement of an effective winning basketball kind of defense. So it might be nuanced in how we measure it. I think maybe Nixon's shooting percentage is a way we measure it. McDonald's shooting percentage, because sometimes she can have games that she impacts, but her shooting is not good.
Yeah.
So if hers is creeping closer to that 50% number and Nixon's is way down, or she just takes a lot of shots to get her points, I think that's one way I'm going to look at it. And if it goes the other way, that's the measurement I'm going to use basically. I guess efficiency. I didn't use a lot of efficiency in my words, but I'll say efficiency in terms of that's how I'm going to measure success for one or the other in this game.
We got it, Charlie. We got it. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think their efficiency is key, but I think ultimately it's the most important stat: who gets the win. I think really that's what it's going to boil down to. Who's going to be able to lead their team to the Elite Eight.
Okay. What is the consistent theme for all the Big Ten teams that are in the Sweet 16? We've got 4 teams. What is the reason why they're here?
Ooh. Wow. One thing to kind of pin on all of them. I don't know that they're, because I look at it, Indiana was a team that sort of built to get here. They've been together for a bit. It's been a program kind of on the rise. Michigan to some degree, the same way. Maryland's a brand new team outside of Owusu. I mean, this is just like a lot of spare parts that Brenda Frese made fit together in this offensive juggernaut kind of situation. So I feel like Iowa's brand new team too from 2 years ago. They went far in the last tournament, Elite Eight team, right? And now it's largely different. Cesano is about the only similarity to that team. So, but I think if we try to put it, they can all score, or they at least all have players that can score on any given night. They can put the ball in the basket. I think that's been kind of the theme of Big Ten basketball. I mean, Maryland and Iowa were the highest scoring teams in the country this year. So if I had to put it's Debbie Antonelli basketball. They're shooting and they're making shots and it's a fun brand of basketball to watch. So I guess that's what I'll go with. But their teams been constructed very differently.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a great answer for that one. I think that Charlotte's a great point around kind of how scoring. So maybe it's kind of lame, but maybe it's the coaching, right? I don't know. I think that there's a lot of talented coaches, good programs there. So I mean, obviously there's good coaches and programs everywhere. So I don't know that that's the theme, but there's something in the water there in the Great Lakes.
I like it. I think it's scoring. I think that is a big part of it. All got great scoring guards. Okay, since you mentioned coaching. All right. Here's what I have written down for NC State and Indiana. I'm going to dispel the myth right now that we play chess in basketball. It's a cliche we shouldn't use. We don't play chess. Both players or coaches don't have the same pieces. And in chess, you're limited in the kind of moves you can make. Okay, so I'm never going to say on the air that we play chess in basketball, that we have a chess match between two coaches. So having removed that cliche from our basketball vernacular, Wes and Terry, Wes Moore, Terry Morin, we know how close this game's going to be. You guys both talked about it being a toss-up. What's the strategy at the end of the game for both teams? Like, what do you see playing out with a tight game, and what you think might be the differential at the end of the game between why these two teams compete and who won?
So if it's not chess, man, I don't know. Maybe it's a street fight. Maybe it's UFC instead of because I think toughness. I think both these teams are tough. They're both smart at the end of games. I think that's where both coaches come in too. Is usually making the right moves in terms of timeouts and decisions to foul and things like that. But I think ultimately it does come down to those players on the court and who gets that defensive rebound, who makes that catch of a pass along the baseline instead of letting it dribble out of bounds. You save the possession. Little plays like that. Whether you call them toughness plays or it's more acumen type plays, but I think that if it's a close game, I think that's what it's going to come down to is that the stuff that's not necessarily about shots going in the basket. I mean, obviously that's that's what is going to win the game, who scores more points. But how do you get to that point? And it's kind of those 50-50 balls at the end of the game and keeping possessions and not giving the other team an extra possession. I think that's what's going to win the game.
Yeah, I have like two pictures in my head, and I think it's the classic like make or miss league. I mean, I guess first I'm picturing Creme kind of operating on the post late in a very close game. Indiana playing strong defense against her, and really it's about, can she get the space? Can she, kind of make her move and hit that shot? I don't know if they'll be up or down, right? But I can sort of picture it going into her late and a chance to really have a decisive basket there. But I think the wild card, who I love for NC State, is Perez, right? So she played really well. I remember one of those national games earlier in the season, and so I think that's sort of the wild card. She's so poised, right? She transferred from like the Big West. She was the Big West, I think, Player of the Year last year, and
Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah. So just such a strong addition for their team, and so I definitely am going to be keeping an eye on what she's doing because she's so poised and so kind of ready to make that winning basket at the end.
Well, depending on Kayla Jones' status, everyone's going to have to do a little bit more for NC State. We'll see how that plays out for the Wolfpack. Parting shot. Anything else you guys want to add as we close out the podcast?
Yeah, it's been a very defensive tournament. I found as I've gone through these games. There's been a lot of low scoring outputs. So my call to every team playing the Sweet 16 is score. Let's get the ball up and down the court. And let's put the ball in the basket, and no more 39-point games or 50-point games. I want to see everybody in the 80s.
Amen to that. What do you got, Aaron?
I'm just excited that I feel it's a little overwhelming to try and keep up with everything that's happening in the first and the second round. So I'm really looking forward to focusing in on these games, and I would just encourage everybody to listen to, make sure that they take the time to watch, tune in. Let's show the networks just how many people are willing to watch women's basketball and the interest that we have nationally, and it's just going to be great because it's basically nonstop basketball. I think we have like 2 days off between the end of the Elite Eight and the start of the Final Four, if I'm doing that correctly. Maybe it's 3.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And so it's just going to be a whirlwind. And then we just have that one day off in the finals. So like this is going to be, pretty spectacular. And I think especially for women's basketball, this is where the matchups get, to be just tougher and tougher, right? Like that potential UConn Baylor game is going to be amazing. Stanford, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm excited at a potential Maryland South Carolina matchup. So I think there's just going to be some great basketball happening over the next week plus.
We are so lucky in our game that you guys are both dedicated and passionate about delivering information that's important for the viewer to understand. And you're absolutely right, Aaron. We got to push people to the ABC window and to the ESPN window so that we can get some good ratings, so that we can keep paying Charlie that big fat paycheck he gets for ESPN every year.
I'm not cashing them yet.
Listen, you guys are great. You're wonderful. As promised, you delivered on the Sweet 16, and I got some good notes. So thank you very much for taking the time on pre-Sweet 16 in San Antonio.
Awesome. Enjoy being there, Deb. I wish I could join you.
Yes. A lot of jealous people out there.